Hey guys, welcome back to another week of e-commerce marketing chats with myself, Charles, and the main man, Jimmy. Jimmy, how's it going, mate?
Hey man, good. Yeah, welcome back to another week. Good to be chatting again. I think, right off the top today, I think what's coming across my world this week in e-commerce is really the importance of data and how to look at it. So I've spoken to a few business owners that probably are making decisions that aren't database, so we might dive into that a little bit today. I'm also just double checking the fundamentals that's come across for me a little bit too. I'll dive into that a little bit in this chat as well. But yeah, what's kind of headlining your week in e-commerce this week, Charles?
Well, one kind of article that came across my desk metaphorically was the fact that click-through rates have dropped from organic on Google as a result of these AI overviews, which was probably to be expected. So that's something that we can kind of deep dive into because I think we're kind of basically the study suggested that there's been a pretty significant reduction in click-through rates from informational queries, which is probably to be expected. But equally, I think we've both seen from working with clients that writing blog posts and guides is still driving traffic. So it may not generate as much traffic as it used to, but it's still having an impact. So I don't think that should mean that you should scrap your content strategy entirely, but there's certainly things that I think it's important to focus on. So that's kind of one thing. And probably a valuable lesson I learned this week was to make sure that you're referring the right type of agencies and people. Yeah, mistake I made this week. Not this week, but actually a mistake that I probably made 4 or 5 months ago that's now resulted in a mistake. I think it's important for me sometimes to be honest when we're having these conversations and we can go through that. And, you know, your voice certainly rung in my head this week when, you always drum on about the importance of basically only referring people that you know do good work. And that's typically what I've done in the past. But in this one occasion, I referred someone which I hadn't worked with that I was just connected with. And it's come back to bite me, I think. But we'll see on that. But yeah, I could go into a bit more detail into that and just show the importance, for those agency owners that are listening in. I know that we obviously speak to mainly e-commerce store owners as well, but I think this is a lesson in kind of referring the right people, building strong relationships with your clients, and the importance of referring good people that you know are definitely going to do good work, because it is a representation of you as a person. Unfortunately, the reality is if whoever you refer. So yeah, that's something that I think is worth kind of
No, yeah,
emphasizing
that
again this week.
that one's definitely a good topic, and I've definitely got a lot of opinions on that one, so we can definitely dive into that. I think the informational query thing you just mentioned earlier, I think that's two-pronged. Firstly, people using Google, one, your click-through rate is going to, like you said, be taken up by that AI query. And even in my own searches, I'm finding like I'm not even visiting a website because Google's answering my question before I even need to go there. But then there's also the other part of it too, that the amount of informational queries is reducing because people just aren't going to Google at all. They're just going straight to
Very true.
ChatGPT. So
Yeah.
I think on top of lower clicker rates, you're also getting lower volume too, because especially people in our demographic, like professional type demographic, I would argue a lot more of them are not even bothering going to Google for informational type queries. Even today, like I think I've used ChatGPT about 13 times today. I haven't gone to Google for any of those kind of informational queries. I am still going to Google to find products that I want, or if I'm looking for price comparisons. So I think being in e-commerce is definitely a good spot for Google. I think if you're in a lead generation or service business, also think Google is still super important. I think if you're relying on informational type blogs and informational type queries, like your business is going to suffer probably a little bit of lack of traffic. What I am noticing on ChatGPT too is, especially when you use the search internet function, they're referencing a lot of their sources. And I am noticing on clients' Google Analytics accounts that, traffic is starting to come from ChatGPT for a lot of them. It's not significant, and like not even in comparison to Google in any regards. But yeah, I think it also I think you need to think about the type of content that you're creating for Google now, because if it's purely just a short article answering a question, like it's got no real value. So I think it's almost like a mini presentation that you're having to create now. I think that's why I downloaded that app that we talked about a couple of weeks ago. For reference, that app was called Boggle, and it was just a Bloggle, sorry, and it was basically helping to, I guess, make format the blog in a way that was, almost kind of a presentation, like rather than just a block of text, which is kind of always been a bit of my downfall. I don't like the formatting side of things, so that's helped massively in that regard. But yeah, I can definitely see why that study would be presenting the numbers it's presenting. How are you approaching it from an SEO point, Charles? Like, what's more important now that you've seen that data? Like, what things should people be focusing on, or what can they kind of do to get ahead of that curve? Is it a matter of looking into how can I rank better on these AI platforms, or what do they need to be doing in Google regard, in your eyes, or what type of content do they need to create to leverage Google as much as possible, especially with kind of decline in informational queries?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, I'd actually be doubling down on your transactional keywords. So, the transactional keywords that are linked to your collection and product pages and your homepage, and making sure that you've got all of the right, on-page SEO elements. But past just once you've done that, is also looking at the design of the page and your conversion optimization, and really like going deep and like, how can we kind of increase our conversion rate? How can we reduce our bounce rate? All of these kind of metrics tie into your rankings. And I don't think a lot of stores go into enough detail. The average e-commerce kind of product page is not very conversion focused. Even from the collections, there's a lot of things you can do to make improvements that are going to increase your rankings. And I've seen just from one of my clients over the last month, where we've kind of really doubled down on the on-page SEO, that we've seen some significant improvements in rankings, which is driving traffic, and most importantly, that's equating to more sales. So first, I'd get that honed in as much as possible. Now, obviously, if you've got a small store, that's not going to take as much time. But, for example, the stores that I'm working with, they've got so many, they've got sometimes thousands and thousands of pages. If we can go through those and make them the best that we can, we're going to be able to start incrementing in terms of the traffic from each of those individual collection and product pages. Then I would start to layer on top content. And I still, I'm still finding, I did like a bit of a blog audit for one of my clients the other week, and like kind of reviewed where they're at with their content. Like, are they actually, basically, I went through onto Google Search Console. I looked at the last 3 months to see how many clicks and impressions each of these articles were getting. And they are getting traffic. There's no doubt about it. But they're not driving as much traffic as the homepage, the collection, the top collection pages, and the top product pages. So I think content is there to help support the rest of the site. It's there to
Same.
become an
Yeah.
authority within your niche and build up your credibility within the market that you're in. And it will also be there as a good, like, there's what I tend to do when I'm kind of looking at building backlinks, which again is another ranking factor for improving your rankings for the entire site, is I would try and link to a blog post, and then from that blog post, internal link through to a collection and product page, or a relevant collection or product page, which helps pass authority through. So content still has its place. But I think you're right. You need to be doing more than just standard blog articles. I think you really need to build like substantial resources and take the time to build something that people are actually going to want to read. But the days of just
I,
writing kind of 1,000, 1,500 word articles with just a standard blog format in the design, I think is not that valuable, in my opinion.
A little bit more, so it's a bit more of a presentation. But I mean, you've seen the stats on one of the blogs that I've done, and that particular topic, the collection, is driving more traffic than the homepage for this particular client. But what you just said around creating valuable content, this particular blog post that I just wrote last week, it was around, I don't want to, and the reason I don't want to be fully transparent with what this blog article is because I don't want my clients' competitors to be listening and just jack it and recreate it. So, in full transparency, that's why I'm not being really specific on what the article was, but it was for a supplement company and it was around a particular type of supplement and when you would use it. And I had someone in my family ask about it this week, this particular supplement, which was really random. We haven't really discussed it before. I'm like, oh, I actually put together an article for this exact thing and sent it through, and they felt it was really helpful. So that's the kind of content that you want to be creating. Something that, one, if you were wanting to find out about this thing, it would be the thing that you read. And two, something that you're like really confident in sharing with your peers because you know it's good content. I think what always pops to mind is one of my friends has a protein supplement brand too, and I remember one of the blog articles that he wrote, and it just had zero substance at all. It was short, and it was the most generic thing about a protein powder that you could ever read. I was like, oh, this is the type of blog post that is, one, a waste of your time, and two, going absolutely nowhere. I think if you are, this is another thing that they can potentially look at. If you are doing informational queries, make it like a really specific kind of niche kind of topic that you can't really find information on about anywhere else. I'm finding a lot of those opportunities in the supplement space, like whether, it's the person that created the supplement or someone promoting it. Like there's not a lot of people talking about those aspects, and we've actually been able to generate kind of a lot of traffic from that. If you're whatever niche you're in or whatever you're selling, like for example, if you're in, I don't know, like the toy industry or something, like how these toys are made or the design process that you go through to make these toys, or something interesting that stands out. It's almost a bit like recreating the founder's story, but like in for the actual product itself. Like, hey, what's this product story? And you could kind of leverage things like that. So there's a lot of different angles that you could go to with content, but yeah, don't like write the most generic blog that you could think of for like a broad spanning topic, because that's when I go to people, this is a waste of time. Like you're competing against absolute giants, you're tiny, like this isn't going anywhere. And it's hard to know, like without experience, like whether that is the case. But yeah, there is opportunity. I don't want to scare people off informational blogs, but I also think there's a bit of skill in choosing what to write about as well.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest mistakes I see a lot of stores make is they know that they need to write blog content in order to drive more traffic, but they don't. They have no. They never look at the keyword research part of the process. And I always say you can have the best piece of content, but if you're not including some keywords into it and you don't know how to structure it to target the right keywords, it's probably not going to go anywhere in my experience.
I think that's super important to note too. And I will say every blog post that I've written has been because I've seen traffic come through for that on the Google Search Console for either a collection page or a product. And that's how I'm choosing to write. It's not off the cuff like what I think might work. It's like, hey, we're generating a lot of traffic for this. And for example, we were actually generating a lot of traffic, and the traffic that was coming through for that particular, so this is in the supplement space again. Yeah, I'll try to be like without giving it away. Like we were looking at a particular supplement and it was like supplement, and then the next phrase of the keyword was like for weight loss. But the article had nothing to do with weight loss. So it was, all right, let's write an article on this supplement specifically for weight loss and give it an actual relevant article that it can go to. So I mean, that was how we chose to write one of the blog posts based off the data in Google Search Console. And I know we've harped on a lot about kind of Search Console being a gold mine. If you're writing a blog article and you haven't looked in there, like, that's kind of you're almost setting yourself up for not much return straight away. Like if you, and this comes back to the first topic I said at the very start of the show, make decisions off data. And if you're not making a blog decision off data, then you're probably wasting your time. Those are what you're writing about and what you need to go forward with needs to be a database decision, especially at the moment.
Yeah, completely agree. Completely agree. I think yeah, data is your friend.
Yes, yes. The Australian versus English pronunciations coming out tonight. So,
Love it.
but did you have anything else you wanted to discuss on that, Charles? Otherwise, I might jump into kind of what I'm doing on the data side and why I think it's important and why businesses need to make more decisions based off that kind of data.
Yeah, sure. We'll leave my mistake towards the end, maybe.
Yeah, definitely cover the agency stuff. We'll cover that, I think, last. I think that will be a good one to touch on. On the data side this week, a few things. So put it this kind of agency side as well, but I send out a monthly report to all my clients, and it's got a link in that report to book a chat with me to discuss the strategy and go over this report. I'd say less than 5% of my clients ever book in for those calls. And it's just like, so when I first started, I used to write these really elaborate reports. I used to spend like a week kind of putting them all together and sending them through to the clients. I don't do that anymore. One, because they don't read them. And two, it's taking up a hell of a lot of time. And it's since I changed to the standard reporting, which is just automated, like I haven't had one single complaint or questions about the reports. One, because they're either not being read, and two, they just want an overview of what's actually happening. But this month, I've started working with a client that is like my ideal client, the perfect client. They're so proactive in their business. They know exactly what's happening. We can have really high strategic conversations about the direction. And it's been the first time that I've been like, okay, I want to build out custom reports for this client because I know that they're going to use them and it's going to help me and it's going to help them. So even today, they were asking about the budget and the previous agency that they used to work with. If sales were down slightly, they just increase the budget to try and drive more sales, not understanding why or what's going on in the account. And then there's been a few emails that I've just sent, like they've just been standard emails. It's like, this is underspent because of this, and we're testing this, and this campaign hasn't reached its full potential. And it's just feedback that I'm getting back, like, oh, this is a really refreshing and good way to look at it. Before we were kind of doing everything ad hoc and everything was changing, especially in Google Ads. So what people don't realize is on Google Ads, the budget that the budget kind of refreshes in Google's eyes at the start of every month. And what you put as kind of your daily budget, that will be times by 30.4. And that will be the monthly budget that Google has allocated to your account for that month. Now, in Google's documentation, they can spend 2 times your daily budget in a single day, but they won't go over the monthly budget. So if they're spending a lot early, it means towards the end of the month, like your average daily spend will decrease. But a lot of clients don't realize this. Like, hey, my daily budget is this. Why aren't we hitting it? Well, because they've already spent like a large chunk of it earlier in the month. But where clients get in trouble is they edit their budgets mid-month and they're it's much more difficult than people realize to kind of manage a budget on Google when budget amount is changing mid-month or quarter of the month because it changes Google's whole calibration on that month it's based on your daily spend. And I always say to my clients, like, this is why I want to know what the budget is at the start of the month, and I don't want to be changing it weekly unless it's like a massive sale that's coming through and we need to push hard. If it's just because the sales are down, then this will this will compensate over the month. So there was another data thing. Also, like, I'm building out custom reports at the moment for like postcode analysis based on the Google ads where so they can give me their shipping information and where it's expensive to ship, and I can be like, hey, you're actually losing money in this shipping location anyway based on how much it costs to get us a sale there plus your shipping price. Let's just cut that location out of the shipping, like, on the advertising platform. So and that's when they said to me, oh, what, can we remove postcodes? I'm like, yeah, give me a whole list of postcodes you don't want to serve to. And they have. And To be honest, in Australia, a lot of it is Western Australia, Northern Territory. They're expensive places to ship to, and they can often be expensive to drive conversions in those locations too. So we're using that data to basically cut out wasted spend, or not even wasted spend, expensive, unprofitable spend, where I'm using kind of an API at the moment to take sales data from Shopify and sales data from Google Ads. And it's like, hey, this product is actually selling really well, but it's like not even in the top 100 in Google Ads. What's going on? So it like flags products that I need to be looking at to figure out what's wrong and what's going on and why it isn't selling on Google, or even if it's getting exposure on Google at all. So it's kind of a system I've set up now to like flag these things for me in my ongoing management too. Another piece of data that not a lot of people use is the price competitive metric in the Google Merchant Center. So if you're using the GTIN numbers correctly and you're kind of in the retail space and you've got other competitors selling your exact same products, Google will take that product and kind of give you a price benchmark to see where you kind of sit in the marketplace, and it'll tell you whether you're cheaper than the benchmark, whether you're more expensive. What we're trying to do, or what I'm trying to do with this data is like, hey, if we're under the benchmark, like we're cheaper than competitors or we're at the benchmark, we want the budget to be gone to those products. We don't want the budget going to products where we're like 50% over the benchmark, because especially in the Google Shopping network, it's very much a price comparison network. So why would we want kind of our ad budget going towards those products when they could get it a lot cheaper from a competitor? So there is a lot of, I mean, Google has moved so much towards a database platform at the moment. So I'm just, especially with AI now, it's like really kind of streamlined, or fast tracked, I should say, my ability to be able to build systems to handle this kind of data now. Whereas before, I would have to hire a developer to build out all these things, and now like AI is my developer. I can tell it
Yeah.
exactly what I want, and as you do it more and more, you learn the terminology and you get much more in sync with exactly what needs to happen, and you're able to build out these really great systems to analyze the data that you need to analyze for clients. And the clients that are going to win in the advertising space are the ones that are going to use that data really efficiently. So I think, like we said with the blog post, using the data to pick what you're writing about, you also need to use the data to know what you need to advertise, and more importantly too, what not to advertise. What are you bleeding money on that you could be, redistributing into products that need additional budget because they're selling like hotcakes. So yeah, data is so important at the moment. But I will say this: I use a data feed manager in Shopify called SimProcess. This one particular client, I've just had nothing but problems with it this week, and I haven't had that before in like any other clients. So I'm not sure what's going on with this particular client. I need to get onto them and say, because what's happening is the client's making changes on the products, and SimProcess isn't sending it. Like it's been like 10 days, and SimProcess hasn't sent the changes to the feed for Google. So I'm like, this isn't sustainable. If it's not updating it in real time, we're going to have to find a different feed manager, like a data feed watch, or even I don't like to use the Google sales channel in Shopify. It does the feed, but it really lacks a lot of customization. And if you need to jump in quickly and have a look, it's a bit of a nightmare. So I try to avoid the standard one and get like a proper feed manager. And I've always sworn by SimProcess, but yeah, I've had a lot of issues with it this week on one particular client, and that's why I said at the start of the show, like, making sure the data that you're using is like reliable. So many people would set up that feed manager and just never check it, and there's products missing, the data's not right. So getting your fundamentals right across every every plane is so important, and you need to be checking it regularly. So it'd be the same like in the SEO world, Charles, like basically the manager just not checking the rankings, and something that was on page 1 is now on like page 10. They don't realize until like another 3 months or something. It's like, that's kind of, it's so important to just check in and make sure everything's going right. And luckily, this particular business owner is so on top of it. Like if I haven't looked at a particular aspect, they're usually flagging it with me, which is which is great. But they do it so quickly. Like if something happens within an hour, I've got a message from them, which is great because I usually do my reviews at night. So if something's happened during the day, I probably won't know about it until I'm checking over all the accounts for the day and making sure everything went smoothly. So I think having people on the ball and looking at the key metrics, understanding the data, and making good decisions around the data that you're getting is so important. I think if you're not for the tracking side, if you're going to your Google Analytics and there's like a huge amount of data that says not set or unassigned, like you need to look into that. Like so much of your data is missing. If too much of it's missing, you need to look into server side tracking. So the standard and what kind of most people start with is the client side tracking. But if you're losing heaps of data or it's not set or not assigned, you can combat that by using server side tracking, which is much more accurate and you're going to actually get a lot of that data back. The downside is it costs money to set up. So it's why small businesses probably won't set it up. But if you're really small, you can actually set it up for free with I use to run server-side tracking with clients at the moment. I use a software called taggers.io. The team there is fantastic. So they do have a small plan if you've got a really small store. But I think kind of server-side tracking really is needed by the larger businesses, not so much for the smaller businesses. But yeah, if you're large and you've got a lot of data that's missing or it's not adding up or you don't know what's going on, yeah, it's time now to start moving to server-side tracking.
And what would be the steps, like the simple steps to do that, Jimmy? Like in terms of, is there any software that you use, or is that within Shopify that you're able to do that? How do you move across to?
For server-side tracking.
Yeah, what's the kind of process there to kind of
Yeah,
get it up?
so the company that I just mentioned,
Oh,
taggers.io,
okay, yeah.
that's where I'm going. So they either can set it up for you, it comes with a cost. If you are technically minded, you can do it yourself. It is a little bit of extra work, but yeah, so essentially you can download their app on Shopify. It gives you basically access to the data layer to be able to create kind of the server-side tracking. You need to have a Google Tag Manager because that's where this whole setup is housed. But again, if you're not technically minded, the team there can do it for you. They will charge you for it, obviously. But yeah, if you do have like somewhat some technical know-how, you can set up yourself through their app and Google Tag Manager, and they have like training videos and modules that you can just follow step by step as well to implement that quickly. So, and if you've done it once you've done it once, the next time it will take about 15-20 minutes to set up.
Yeah, definitely valuable, especially like you said with the larger stores and when they've got a lot of that data not set. I
And
know
the
that I've certainly
price
come across that.
The price, you're probably like for that setup for like a medium-sized store, you're probably looking at like $50 a month. So it's not like extortionary or anything, but it is more, it obviously costs more than the free setup that you'd be running currently. But yeah, for especially if you're making decisions on data, it's almost like, okay, you need to, and you're missing a lot of data in your Google Analytics. It's almost a no-brainer to pay for in terms of if you're making decisions on your advertising spend or where budget's going and you're using Google Analytics, then it needs to be server side for a more reliable kind of outlook on your traffic and what's actually converting.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Makes total sense. And out of curiosity, when you're working with clients with a lot of SKUs, what are you using as a starting point to know what products to advertise first? Are you talking to the
Yeah.
client specifically first and foremost, or are you looking into their
Look,
data to be like,
yeah, data. So I'll ask them for like the general best-selling categories. But so at the moment, in full transparency, I'm using a script by Mike Rhodes, which does a performance max analysis, and it basically does a review on all their product SKUs, and it tells me based on the numbers that I put, the ROAS target, the targets that I put in, it spits out a whole bunch of products that fit the description of being profitable and bestsellers. And it highlights for me the ones that are underperforming and that are quite costly in terms of how much has been spent, how much revenues come back. So yeah, that's where I start to analyze the actual product data. I do have some of my own scripts as well, but there's a really good one by I always butcher their business name. I think it's called Flow Boost or Boost Flow. I think it's Flow Boost. So those boys from the Netherlands, they've got a really good script as well, which I was using quite early on. But what Mike Rhodes has built for Google Ads data analysis is amazing. I will say the only thing that is missing from that script is the Google Merchant Center input. I've talked to Mike a couple of times about, trying to get that in there, but it's not. So it's what I'm building out myself, which has kind of the price competitive analysis. You can download product prices, which you can't do from the Google Ads. You can only do it from Merchant Center. So most scripts that are only using the Google Ads data, they'll be missing like the price of your product and things like that. Yeah, in terms of analyzing products, Mike Rhodes Performance Max script. He has a paid version of that and he does have a free version. So you can test it on both.
Good. Sounds good. Yeah, no, it's always curious to see how you kind of, typically how I'd always have a conversation with a client first and foremost, just to see where they want to focus. Because sometimes there's certain products or collections that, that they want to, that they know are bestsellers, or they need to shift, they want to shift some inventory and they want to sell certain, in certain areas. But then, yeah, I would always look into the data as well and see
I,
what's performing
I
the
will
best.
say the downfall of the script is because it relies on historic data. When you've got a new bunch of products come in that are seasonal, like for example, I've got a client in the water skiing space, and they release like new skis every year, like the 2025 version of different skis. The thing is, when they're uploaded as new products, they've got no historic data, so they're not moved into the best sellers. But you really need to be advertising those kind of at launch time. So there are instances where you need to set up campaigns for the new products, and that's a prime case of when you would do that. And same with other clients too, that sometimes they get like a new product line or a new SKU line and they want to promote it. So you need to be able to set up campaigns to promote that, and then once it's got the data, then it'll move into your buckets of, hey, this product's profitable and we're going to spend even more budget on it in these campaigns. But yeah, it's something to be mindful of too, because you do need feeding buckets when you are focusing on products that are profitable. You also need testing buckets so that products that aren't or haven't had enough spend on it to determine whether it is or isn't are actually getting tested, so products can move out of those lower buckets if they've got potential.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, makes sense. That's interesting to see how like the pay side versus the organic and how you approach things.
I think
It's
they're
coming at it
like
from the
I
same
think
principles. It's just a different,
there's
fundamental
probably
strategy.
I don't know if I haven't looked into this actually, but I don't know if the Search Console's got an API that you can pull the data from with Google, but there's probably some really cool scripts you can write and put together for the Search Console too. And you could link it with AI, and it would basically tell people what article they need to write.
Yeah, I certainly need. I mean, just like I said, listening to you now certainly as I've made a mental note to start really delving into some of this data more and see what I can do. And like I said, I think now with AI, a lot more is can be achieved by just yourself and AI versus having to hire a developer to build something out. So yeah, it's exciting times. It's exciting times in terms of I think, like I said, what you can do and see now with the data is incredible, and it's now making decisions on that data, which is the most important thing.
I'll send you the link to Mike Rhodes's free Performance Max script. We can put that in the show notes for anyone that wants to try it out. And if anyone's in the group and they need help with it, hit me up. I'll help you install it and I'll run you through what it looks like for your business and help you like talk through the data with you and see what opportunities there are. So jump into Shopify Marketing Secrets on Facebook, and if you do want myself to have a look at that and help you with the installation of that script, I will do it, but only if you're in that group and you hit me up and ask me.
Yeah, nice little plug there for our Facebook group. Some personal help from Jimmy.
And Charles has actually started like putting some transcripts together from these chats, which I actually find useful too. So I think some of them, are there any of them available in the group yet, Charles, or do they have to like comment on a post if they want to get it from you?
The last episode that I published on the Facebook group, I also included a link to like summary basically. So what I've done is I've taken the video transcribe, flipped it over to Claude AI, and then it's kind of punched out a summary of the episode with some actionable recommendations from both myself and Jimmy. It just formats things in a nice way, and also it mentions all the tools and softwares and websites that we mentioned each week. It puts that in there in a nice format as well. So yeah, if you don't want to sit through an hour of myself and Jimmy and you just rather read,
Yeah, you just want the summary. I mean, yeah, that's what people are doing these days.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, Charles and I create this for a content bank, but also I think yeah, we both said we learn something weekly kind of on this show. I've always said while I'm continuing to learn, I'll keep doing it. Yeah, it's as much as we try to help you guys too, like just bouncing ideas off someone else in the space is really, I find, super beneficial too. So let's get into let's get into the agency chat. Now, I want to hear more about what happened and with this recommendation that you made, and because I've got lots of thoughts on this topic in general. But yeah, do you want to just give us a rundown of what happened, Charles, what you learnt from it, and yeah.
yeah. I guess Cliff Note summary. Be back, and this was back in December. A client of mine, they had a little bit of bad press on Reddit, and they kind of came to me and said, like, do you know if there a way that we can get this taken down? And there are certain services that supposedly offer this. And I just happened at the time to be connected with a lady that was on my Facebook and connected with various different business owners. I don't personally know her. I hadn't worked with her before. But it seemed like based on what she was posting that what she can deliver was what my client needed. So I basically made the referral. They liaised directly with my client in terms of getting payment sorted. But there was a little bit of an issue with payment. And what I didn't realize until this morning was that there was some email correspondence between her and my client in terms of payment. And I didn't actually think that this service had been actually approved in the first place. There was a little bit of I thought that my client hadn't got back to her, so I assumed that he didn't want to go ahead. He didn't tell me, and she didn't communicate to me that my client had paid her for this service up front. So we're now nearly in May. The payment was made in December, late December, and it seems like the Reddit thread is still up. And I don't think she has delivered on her promise, as far as I can see. And she certainly hasn't communicated with me. But obviously, as someone who's referred this lady to my client, there's some responsibility on myself. My client has CC'd me in this email this morning because he was chasing her up. So yeah, that's kind of as far as we've got with the situation. And I've obviously reached out to her today to find out what has happened. But it just, I guess, it's just made me realize that the importance of only really referring people that you personally know and even probably more so even worked with as well. Personally, or you at least know personally and have some relationship where you're like, okay, they've done pretty good work. I've seen from having my conversations with them on a one-to-one basis that they can deliver on their promise. So yeah, I've probably been in this game long enough to have not made that mistake, but it is where we're at, and sometimes it's you need those hard lessons to learn from, and also, yeah, it's just a good, important reminder, and hopefully that hasn't had a negative impact on the work that I'm doing with my client.
Yeah, I mean, I think like there's a couple of angles I look at this. So one, if a client's asking me for a referral and I haven't worked with something, I'm always pretty open and transparent. I'm just saying, look, I know of this person that does this, but I've never worked with them and I can't vouch for them. But if you're looking for someone to talk to, I can make the intro. So that's
It's
one
worth
big
noting,
kind of,
yeah. It's worth noting. I actually did say that. So when I did refer, I said, "Look, I know that you were looking to get this removed. This is a lady that I'm connected with. I've not personally worked with her, but from what I can see, it looks like she can do what you require." So on that front, I was very upfront. It was just, yeah. There's certainly a few things I think looking back I could have done differently. But sorry, carry on, Jimmy.
yeah, no,
Yeah, I just wanted
yeah.
to
I mean
mention that.
yeah, that's one of the well, that's one of the big things I do. The other thing is like you've got to take a chance on someone that you want to potentially work with at some point, at some stage. Everyone that you work with, and there'll always be the first time where you two actually work together. I mean, sometimes you've got to take those chances. I think, I think the exception for that is when you're working with a client and they've already got someone else working, like a different freelancer or something, working on the account, and you work with them then, and then you realize we're working really well together. And if I get another client, then I'm more than happy to recommend you because like I'm enjoying this process. I think that happens organically a lot. Even the last month and a half, like I've uh, I've been struggling to find a Facebook like freelancer that I actually want to work with. So I actually reached out to one of my other Google Ads friends that recommended me someone that he's worked with, and I really respect this guy. So I was like, okay, cool. But it's one of these instances that I just talked about where I took a chance based on the relationship I have with this other person. I hadn't worked with this guy before. I did get on a call with him before I made the recommendation just to see if our energies were aligned. And he was a really decent guy. So I did make that introduction and we are now working together. They've just signed with this particular client this month. But I've also networked now with like two other Facebook people as well. And I think, and one of those is Paul, who we had on the show the other week, who's kind of just come back into the advertising fold. Like back in the day, he was an absolute, beast at the meta ad space. So I have no problems working with him. I think previously we hadn't got to work on a lot of clients together because I like price point that he was working at back then just wasn't a good fit for my clients. And yeah, I've had another conversation this week with a guy that like I was like so aligned with on energies, values. He's kind of more in the branding kind of space in the meta ads, but I think hopefully I think we can get him on the show in a couple of weeks and just talk about that because the branding side is something that I'm not full. Like I'll be completely honest, I'm not fully across the whole branding side, and even Charles knows how like rubbish I am at branding. Like he messaged me the other day wanting to get all our kind of channels and brands aligned. I'm like, mate, honestly, that's like the lowest thing on my priority list. So Charles is definitely better at branding than what I would say I am too. But I think I think the branding side is probably someone that we could scout out and have a chat with as well. I think it would be interesting too. But yeah, in saying that, like I've been really trying to reach out to, find people that basically if I have a client that comes to me and they're like, "Hey, do you know someone for this?" I want to have someone in my network that I can recommend to that I've worked with, that I enjoy working with, and yeah, because I don't want them looking elsewhere, if that makes sense. So I want to have people that I trust and can work with to recommend to my clients. So, and yeah, honestly, it's how I get a lot of my clients too, because I've got like I've got kind of really good relationships with other businesses, and my lead generation system for my own clients is probably nowhere near where it needs to be to like generate clients consistently. So I rely a lot on my reputation, doing really good work and being a really good referral partner for kind of larger agencies that specialize in one thing and don't do Google Ads, and then they take a percentage of the invoice that I invoice to clients. So, and I'm fine with that if it means not having to sort out my own lead generation system, which Like I like e-commerce. I don't like lead generation. I never have. So like yeah,
It's an
it's
effective strategy. Actually, when you speak to agency owners at all different levels, it's referrals is still probably the number one way of generating new business. So yeah, I think you're right. I think it's the important thing is well, one is referring good people, and it's two, if you do get referred, do good work. Because that cements that relationship. On another one recently, actually, yeah, on the flip side of that, I just signed up a client the other week, and they asked me, do I know a web developer? And I was very confident in the guy that I recommended because I personally work with him on a client right now at the moment. So we speak pretty much on a daily basis, and he just with him as well. So yeah, I think when you that again, it's just another lesson to just make sure that you're referring the right people versus the potentially people that you might not know.
I think it goes like the other way too. Like I'm super hesitant to take on well, I'm not even hesitant. I just won't do it. Like if the client isn't a good fit for me. Whereas you've got some freelancers that will just take on anyone, not do a good job and just rely on churn, which to be honest with you pisses me off. Like these guys are the people coming onto you, like trusting what you're saying and trusting you can do a good job, and you just don't deliver. Like those people drive me insane. And I've come across a few of them, and I'd never work with them ever. But even Charles, a client that I recommended to you the other week, which I think you're doing a SEO sprint with at the moment. I'm trying to figure out a way that I can help them because they don't fit into my typical mold for a typical Google Ads client I would work with. I do offer a digital marketing manager partnership arrangement, which is where I take control of a lot more of their marketing. But it's more expensive, and these guys like they're not at the revenue levels where I would feel comfortable in taking them on because I struggle to see it being a win-win, but at the same time, it's catch-22. Like I know these guys personally, which is why I'm hesitant on it because I know they're going to go somewhere else and just get rorted anyway. But it's like it's a catch-22. Like they need the marketing to grow the brand, but I like to work with the brands that already are doing revenue and want to scale up past where they're at. And they're starting from kind of really low revenue numbers, which is it's like I'm not a fan of kind of building businesses from scratch. I have done several, and actually one of my favorite clients we actually did build from scratch. But if I am taking those clients on, it's because I like the business owner more than the business, if that makes sense. It's like, okay, I'm willing to invest the time in this because I actually believe in the person running it more than the business itself. And I've only done that a handful of times, whereas my referral partners know, one, I only work with clients in the Google Ad space that have over kind of 100 SKUs. And I like my sweet spot is for them to be spending between like 15 and $100,000 a month. Like that's kind of my sweet spot for Google Ads clients. But yeah, it's like you need to communicate that. And I've been open and honest, Charles, with that client that I sent to you, and just like, look, this is the solution for you, but at your revenue levels, like I'm a little bit hesitant to do it because it's kind of not a win. Like it's not going to be a win-win from the get-go, which is which I really like to champion. Like I like to come in with brands and make an instant impact and almost more than pay off my retainers, like in the first month that they're working with me. But I don't think it would be the case in this situation, and it's something I need to weigh up. I'm thinking about if they even do want to go ahead with it. I'm like, look, let's try it for 3 months. It's month by month anyway. I'm not going to lock you into anything, but let's try it for 3 months and then reevaluate from there.
Yeah. Yeah, that might be a good way of doing it. Yeah, I mean, typically how I was the same for a long time. So I would, I'd have a certain price point, and I only work with clients on a month to month basis. But what I was finding was that, if, like I said, if they weren't able to afford my services, or I didn't feel that they were at the level to afford my services, they would just go to a cheap provider and then get shafted. What I've looked to actually do is, like Jimmy mentions, build out this kind of SEO foundation sprint where at least we're getting the foundations in place. So it's like a one-off fee. I'm not working with you necessarily on, as intensively on a month to month basis, but I know when you kind of lay the right foundations in place, you have the good quality keyword research and you're optimizing the pages correctly, then you'll start to see some improvements. And at least you've got quote unquote the foundations in place so that you're not, you're just in 12 months time you're going to see some improvements versus either get shafted and then you're in a worse situation, or two, you just don't do anything at all, and then in 12 months time, 24 months time, you're in exactly the same situation, and then you've got other competitors that are focused on their SEO and they're far ahead of you points. So
I
it's a
think
difficult one.
one of the things I've learned from the business side too is like you need to have like lower priced items. And this is what I've learned from some really successful guys, like either a course that guides them through it so they don't have to pay you those things, they can go through and do it themselves, or like kind of a done with you type thing where it's like coaching. And like I need to work on that more and I know it. And especially for like these type of clients, it's like hey, like I can just create you all the content and you can go through and implement it and it will save you significant amounts. And then you can use that. And then, like, as a provider, I could use those training videos in a course or whatnot. But yeah, it's something I need to work on in my own business and I want to work on it. Like, lower priced things and then scaling up because, yeah, I've listened to a lot of podcasts and everyone's kind of like, this is my main service offering. If you don't fit into that, then I don't have anything for you. And like the opportunity cost on that for service-based businesses is massive. So I need to fix that hole in my own business. The other thing as well is, I made a post on my Facebook page the other day that I had a really good chat with a potential referral partner in the Facebook ad space, and then I got a comment on there that oh, Jimmy, hit me up, like I'd have whoever you need in my own Rolodex. The only thing is, like this guy's great at what he does. I've worked with him before, but everyone in his Rolodex just pushes clients that they get through to their coaching program, and I don't want that for my clients. And really, I want my own Rolodex. I don't want someone else's, if that makes sense.
Yeah, yeah,
So yeah, and I prefer to build out my own based on relationships that I have with the person that's working with them that I trust, not that someone else has built with this person and is recommending. So it's definitely hard work though. Like it's really hard to find good people in different things that you can trust. So it's something that, yeah, Charles up. I know Charles has a directory, but I also know it's definitely I know a couple of people in there. And again, you have to be like a certain type of client for I don't want to delve into it too much, but like some of them will be a good fit for you and some of them won't. So don't take like the overarching branch of everything, including myself. Like the Google Ads, like I'm going to be a good fit for some and not for others. So yeah, keep that in mind when you're looking at anyone. Just because like I do Google Ads doesn't mean I'm going to be a good fit for your business. If you come to me and you're like lead gen, or say you're an electrician and you want to generate leads, like I'm not your guy for that. So but yeah, if you've got over 100 SKUs and you're in e-commerce, like 100% I'm gonna like help you grow significantly. So keep that in mind whenever you're talking to anyone that you want to work on your accounts.
yeah. That's a good point. Good point. And I think, yes, you can refer people clients, but the client also has to do their own research and
I agree.
make sure it's the right fit for them as well. So yeah, it's due diligence is definitely.
Definitely. I think that a lot. And even this last client that I signed last month that I've been working with this month, she honestly took about 6 weeks to kind of like decide on, but it made me more confident. Like she's going to like great lengths to make sure she's finding the right person for her business, and like we're so aligned. And I'm actually she's like honestly the ideal client. Like if I could have another 5 clients like exactly like that, I'd be like really happy. But yeah, I think people that take their time to make the right decisions, and she was open with me. She's like, I'm shopping around, I'm speaking to other agencies. So I'm like, cool. If there's anything I can help you with, shoot me an email, let me know. And yeah, eventually they signed on. But I nearly didn't get that agreement signed because they wanted the Facebook too, which I didn't offer, which is why I nearly screwed myself by not having a solid recommendation in the Facebook space, which is why I've been reaching out diligently and networking with different people in the space, finding out what they've done to kind of plug that hole so it doesn't happen again.
Yeah, no, it's good. It's good. Good forward thinking for sure. Good
I
stuff.
think that's a wrap for us this week, Charles. If anyone's listening, if you're listening on podcast or anything, check us out on YouTube at Ecommerce Marketing Chats, or check us out on Facebook at Shopify Marketing Secrets. And yeah, it's a good chat. And I know you're about to bounce for dinner, Charles, so we won't hold it up any longer. So it's always good to chat, man. I'll chat to you again next week.
Cheers, Jimmy. Cheers, guys.